Thank you for that, Dan. And that brings me to Kevin, who currently, as a bugler and a trumpeter, is what we call Sergeant B down in the quarters. And I want you to, Kevin, kind of take us through how you got to Pershing Zone, and then let's talk about your assignment as Sergeant B.
Well, similar to Adam and Dan, I came from a music school in New York City. And actually, funny enough, um, Dan and I had the same teacher, just decades apart. Not decades apart, well, almost
Perhaps
decades.
decades. Absolutely decades.
And so, an audition, I've known about them, I think, my whole life. I think 2003, I saw the Herald Trumpets play at the Hollywood Bowl, and you always see the Memorial Day special of a bugler at in the Army band. I've always wanted. It's a dream job for me. It's an honor to be able to perform at the Tomb. I took an audition. I was already in the Army and the United States Army Field Band, which is one of the four premier Army bands. And I was lucky enough to win an audition several years ago and into the ceremonial band, where I became a bugler and trumpet player. And working at the Tomb with the Sentinels is an honor. I've built a lot of friendships and bonds with the Tomb Guards that are there, and I've recently done quite a few, since I've gotten in, quite a few last walks, which is something that's very special to me. So the very first person who did a wreath with me, I just did his Sentinel. I did his last walk, and that's just, time flies. And something I could say that it's never a dull moment at the Tomb of the Unknown. You never know who you're going to play for, and they all, from a dignitary to a president to an honor flight, a school, someone famous, they all come in to honor the unknowns. They lay a wreath, and that's where buglers come in and have that relationship with the Sentinels. So there'll be anywhere between on every hour. It could be anywhere from 1 to 4 wreaths at the Tomb, and you don't know who they're going to be until you get in there. So I think my 4th week on the job, I think we gave you pictures for that as well. I'm sitting there where I'm talking to the Sentinels, and we knew that a couple presidents were there talking about the 50th anniversary of the RFK assassination. And I had played my first time with the Herald Trumpets that morning before the Tomb shift for that ceremony. I remember seeing a couple presidents and the Kennedy family, and a huge honor. So I go and do my Tomb shift, and I go out to do this wreath for the 50th anniversary of RFK. And I'm turning the corner, and with the Tomb Guard holding the wreath, and I see 2 presidents and the Kennedy family. My heart starts pounding out of my chest, and I'm keeping composure. You have to be absolutely, as right on, focused, composed. And so I go around, I play taps. It's like, okay, didn't miss a note. I was like, this is a story I can tell my kids one day. We turn around, they weren't there. We go back to the Tomb quarters, and we're talking about how, like, wow, did you see that? Was awesome. And then we get a phone call, and they're like, Sergeant B, POTUS would like to meet you and the other Sentinels. And I was like, what? That's amazing. And I was like, which one? They're like, both of them. And I was like, absolutely, it's awesome. So we went into the back room, and we're just talking to all the Sentinels. We're just talking about just a bunch of different things, how crazy that was, never a dull moment. And I turn around after talking to someone who says, Mr. President. I turn around, and President Clinton was right behind me, and he was nice enough to shake our hands, take a picture with all of us. Obama was there, talked to the Kennedys. It was just a wonderful experience. I have so many of those stories. I'd have to say probably the most memorable experiences for me are honor flights, getting to talk with them, with the Sentinels outside after, and just kind of those long days where you're just sitting there inside the quarters, just hanging with the Sentinels.
Nice. I have to say that when I was down there, I was able to do the Memorial Day wreath with President Clinton. And, for me, or for a tomb guard, we don't have to worry about an instrument and whether or not it's warmed up, or, the air is right, or the humidity, or any of the things that you guys are challenged with as musicians. We simply know our steps and where to walk. And then, if we trip, it's on us. But, the pressure that each of you must have felt when you've had to step on the marks, whether it's just for a normal concert or to play taps at the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, the pressure's got to be pretty big. Dan, how did you prepare yourself for that mission and stepping out on the plaza like that?
I think it's just, straight up preparation. It's, every day you prepare for as if you're the starting quarterback, whatever the case is, so you have to be ready to turn around come around the corner and execute. And yes, you're exactly right. Sometimes that there are weather conditions, there are other challenges, just flat out, even fatigue can set in. You've been doing this for a little while, and you still need to execute. But I think we draw from each other. I think the musicians draw from each other, and I think the bond between the Sentinels and the buglers. So when you walk out and you're standing there next to a Sentinel, and that person is ready to execute, and as you Sentinels would say, the standard is perfection, right? Line 6, I think you guys say, line 6, the standard is perfection. And you're standing next to that. It's the same for us, and I know that we get energy, from the Sentinels, and I suspect, especially having listened, spoken more and more to Sentinels in my retirement, the feeling is mutual, and I can tell you, particularly at the Tomb of the Unknowns, you could go down, and again, as you know, Gavin, you go out the door and you're ready for anything, but you don't really know what you're doing until you turn that corner, and every inch of those steps can be covered with tourists or a school group, or a visiting group, or it can be completely empty. And I know for me, and I think I've heard, several of the buglers talk about this, and I know I've heard Sentinels talk about this. Those most special ones are when you come around and there's maybe one single veteran sitting there in their wheelchair. Maybe it's raining, and it's a very, very intimate and personal and deeply moving ceremony, and you feel like you are just part of that extraordinary reverie, and it just I remember those memories are ingrained in me.
Nice. I was going to ask Kevin before I moved on to Adam, because I got a question in my mind for Adam, but as we move on to Kevin real quick and say, when you went down there the very first time, was there a senior bugler that gave you the do's and the don'ts? You need to prepare yourself this way or that way. Or did they just throw you to the wolves?
No, there a Sergeant First Class Northman, who actually has done that for a lot of us. He went down, and some of the Sentinels were nice enough. Like before it was open, the tomb was like, I guess 8 a.m. was when it opens up. Before, we did a couple of mock practice runs, and that was super grateful for that, because I think my first wreath was like there was a TV crew there for some reason, and I'm my mom sending me a picture, a snapshot. I saw you on CNN, and I am so glad that happened, because my whole you have to look, and as you have to look and act very focused, and you're just in your head. It never truly gets you. You can't ever go on autopilot.
That's very true.
Hey, Gavin, I'm sorry, I'm going to butt in if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
That's not the experience I had on my first trip. It was very different. But I went down with a senior bugler, And I watched him do a ceremony. And then he said, okay, now it's your turn. And that's the way it went. And we did all right. The Sentinel was extraordinarily patient and helpful. The training continues to evolve for the Sentinels and for Sergeant B. Another particularly special memory for me on that first trip, was walking into the tomb guard quarters, and I saw no less than half a dozen photos of my first trumpet teacher on the wall playing Memorial Day, ceremonies, presidential ceremonies, that was really special for me.
It's interesting because when we're down at the quarters and we step out on the plaza and we're doing our thing, especially when it comes to a re-ceremony like this, we're so focused on doing it right, like you said, our line 6 and perfection, that I quite honestly never worried that the bugler or the drummer that was beside me on some of those big wreaths would fail. I knew they were the consummate professionals and they were going to nail it. And I wanted to ask this question of Adam, but when we're standing there and we have that pause because now the drummers are preparing the ruffles and flourishes, and then the bugler picks up taps, there's that moment to think a little bit, to go off, like Kevin said, autopilot. And I know that the taps, as well as our national anthem, will always bring tears to my eyes. And I wanted to ask Adam, having performed in the larger band there, do you just go on autopilot to play these musical pieces, or do you also feel the emotion as you're playing it? How do you overcome those challenges?
Like you said, I get to sort of stand in the larger full honor band on the plaza there opposite the buglers, and I'll say I always feel it for them a little bit, especially if there's a president standing 20 feet away. I get nervous for them, and I always breathe a little bit of a sigh of relief as everything inevitably goes perfectly. On our side, we are usually playing at least the United States anthem, and oftentimes we're playing another national anthem before that, which we've usually only rehearsed that morning, or just an hour or so beforehand. Sometimes it's not a familiar one, so it's not really something you can go on autopilot for, because we're not, we're playing music that is sometimes unfamiliar to us. But even when we're doing the anthem, I'll say, as I played the U.S. national anthem thousands of times, there's still this thought that if you go on autopilot and you get off track, then there's no recovering. You're not using music for that. It's memorized, and my bell, if you know what a euphonium looks like, it points kind of this way directly at the press corps. So I'm usually standing like right next to all the folks taking pictures and things, and my bell is pointing right at them. And I definitely don't want to miss any notes. But when you think about the gravity of being in that space, and like a lot of times with a huge crowd and a foreign dignitary, and I feel the same way at arrival ceremonies at the Pentagon or at Whipple Field there at Fort Myer. There's a gravity to the fact that you are playing that other person's patriotic national anthem that means so much to them, likely, and you're doing it in a way that that is as perfect as it can possibly be rendered. Our officers do research on what's the performance practice for that? How is it supposed to go? Where are we supposed to slow up and slow down, speed up, and that kind of thing, to make it as accurate as that person's band would play it, And so I remember one time at the Pentagon having the I believe it was the Minister of Defense of France, but I could be wrong, but some high level dignitary at a Pentagon arrival stand there, we played the anthem, and then personally just said, hold on just a second, and then walked down and shook hands with the officer and the drum major to say thank you. That was like, that meant a lot to me, and that was a beautiful rendition of our anthem. So you know that even if they're not doing that, that they're feeling that kind of respect and gravity of the situation, you know, to have us play for that event.
Well, I can say that, I would love to sit here and chat for hours because I've got a million questions when it comes to all the different aspects of the band. You guys have been great. I'm going to leave you with one of the memories that I have. Well, actually, there's two memories I have. One is of a Sergeant B who, as I was going out for, I don't think it was my first wreath, but it was a big one. As you know, we form up on the north side of the amphitheater before we go on to our marks. And he refused to step off the marks until I told him a joke. And I'm not a joke guy. I can't come up with a joke quickly. And he outranked me. I think he was either an E7 or an E8 at the time, and I was a lowly E6. And he dead serious said, I am not walking on the plaza until you tell me a joke. And I had to quickly come up with something. And I found out later on, of course, he's just, breaking the seriousness of it by a little levity, but it definitely put me on the spot. After I left the tomb, I went to the Continental Color Guard, and that's where I learned to enjoy at times the other national anthems that you guys play, because I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, the Argentine national anthem, the full version is what, 13 minutes or something? It's not a short one. And as a color sergeant, I was constantly thinking of my color bearers, and they're having to have the staffs out. I got lucky as the national bearer, being just stand there at attention, but that's when it really, sunk in that, oh my God, to learn these, like you said, in the morning and then have to play it in the afternoon is truly amazing. And you guys always, as Dan said early on, you crushed it every single time. Again, the pressure that you're under to play, to perform, to be perfect, not only for our nation, but for others and visitors is amazing. And I think I'll save the time when a band member fell out that made me wake up on the plaza one time when I was a color bearer. I'll save that for a later date. But until then, Kevin, Adam, Dan, thank you so much for taking the time today and talk about this. And I have a feeling that we're going to talk some more in some detail as the year goes on, especially as the band approaches their 100th anniversary in 2022. And Adam, if you could tell us how the public can find out more about the band, where can they go?
Okay, our website is www.usarmyband.com. And on that website, you'll see links to all of our social media outlets. We have Instagram page, Facebook page. We actually have a public Facebook page just for the 100th anniversary. And actually, Staff Sergeant Paul is leading that up as one of his historical duties. That page is fantastic, and you can engage in the conversation there with TUSAB alums if you're just a fan of the band, or if you've worked with the band as a Sentinel or something like that, or if you are a former member or a current member, you can engage with the conversation there, share memories, share pictures. That's a really rich source for us of information. Fill in some of the blanks of stuff that we might not know, hear personal stories. Those are always great. So that's a great source right there as well.
Okay. Well, again, gentlemen, thank you for taking the time to join me and talk about the band and about your experiences. And we'll talk again. Thanks.
Thanks very much, Gavin. Thanks for having us.
Our pleasure.